guilty?" Justin asked. "No," Del sighed. "He confessed to everything." Justin made a final, brutal note on his pad. "I noticed that your respective properties were company-owned. So when the company was liquidated, you both lost your homes." "Yes," Rodney whispered. "I had a lovely little place right on the river. And I had an estate," Del added defensively, "with peacocks and everything. But due to my foresight, some years previously, I had bought another property, so at least we had somewhere to live." "Nelson Mandela House," Justin read from the file, a hint of disdain finally piercing his neutral tone. "Yes," Del said, lifting his chin. "Our old flat. It just goes to show you how fortunes alter. All our good luck turned to bad. Every day there was more bad news. We thought things couldn't possibly get worse." Del paused, the bravado finally cracking, revealing the tired, desperate man beneath. Oh, boy, how wrong we were. Chapter 3, The Ghost of Uncle Albert. The bad news had come in waves, crashing against the shores of their already ruined lives. The most devastating blow had arrived via a somber telephone call. Uncle Albert, the white-bearded, seafaring patriarch of the family, had passed away. The funeral was held in a sleepy coastal town where Albert had spent his final, comfortable years with his companion, Elsie Partridge. The rain, relentless and unforgiving, hammered against the black umbrellas of the meager gathering. Standing by the open grave, Rodney felt a profound sense of emptiness, not just for Albert, but for the utter decimation of their entire world. A few years ago, they would have arrived in a fleet of Rolls-Royces. Today, they had barely scraped together the train fare. Albert's nephew, Roland, a stern-faced man who clearly disapproved of the trotter lifestyle, stood across from them. "Well, I suppose we'll all miss him in our way, eh?" Del offered, trying to break the heavy silence as they retreated to the local pub for the wake. "Missing him already," Rodney agreed softly. "I'll tell you one thing we won't miss, though. All those bloody wartime sagas." Roland bristled. "Actually, Derek, we used to love hearing about his past." "That's right," Roland's wife added. "Couldn't get enough of it." Del, misreading the room entirely, chuckled. "Yeah, but, God, he did go on, though, didn't he? He never bloody stopped." Rodney cringed, wanting the floorboards to open and swallow him. "Yeah, well, you'd have to blame me for that one." Roland, Del plowed on, oblivious to the icy glares. "You see, I used to love them stories. I loved them so much that when he got to the point and said, 'And then Germany surrendered,' I'd say, 'Tell us about the day that war was declared.' And he'd start all over again. We'd stay up all night sometimes." "More fool you, Derek," Roland snapped, his grief morphing into anger. "I used to just tell him straight. I'd say, 'Oi, knock off the John Wayne stuff.' To hear you go on, you'd think you'd won the war all by yourself. Dell's smile vanished. A sudden, fierce loyalty for the old man flared in his chest. Yeah, well, in many ways. That's true. 'Cause everyone involved was fighting their own individual war. Weren't they? You've got to remember that a lot of blokes lost their lives for our liberty, just so that 50 years later, prats like you would have the freedom to knock them. All right, take it easy. Dell, Rodney whispered, grabbing his brother's arm as the tension skyrocketed. I tell you what, Roland, Dell sneered, stepping forward. Have they got a garden here? 'Cause I think you and I ought to go outside and have a more detailed chat. It had taken Raquel and Cassandra's combined efforts to pull Dell back, apologizing profusely to the horrified relatives. They retreated to a quiet corner, isolated from the rest of the mourners. I didn't mean to upset anybody, Dell muttered, staring into his lukewarm pint of bitter. It's just emotions running a bit high. That's all. I bet old Bunny's up there having a right laugh. Bunny? Rodney asked, confused. Yeah, Albert. That's what they called him in the RAF. Didn't they? Because his surname was Warren. Get it? Bunny Warren. Even in the depths of despair, Dell could find a terrible joke, but the laughter didn't reach his eyes. Chapter 4: The Managing Director. Back in London, the walls of the Nelson Mandela House flat seemed to press inward. The vibrant wallpaper from the 1980s was peeling, a physical manifestation of their decay. The bankruptcy court had delivered the final, crushing blow. Dell had been completely disqualified from running any business. The Inland Revenue was demanding £48,754, plus interest. They had 1 year to pay it back before the bailiffs would come to seize the flat itself. Raquel stood by the kitchen sink, washing the same mug for the third time, staring blankly at the tower blocks through the grimy window. So, what are we going to do? Then, Dad, Damien asked, sitting on the faded sofa, playing a handheld video game that was already obsolete. I suppose you could always look for a job, Cassandra suggested tentatively. Trigger said they're recruiting down at his depot. The pay is not too bad, either. I know it's only road sweeping, but me? Dell looked appalled, placing a hand over his heart. You can't expect me to go out sweeping the roads. Not at my age. I'm an executive. I was talking about Rodney, Cassandra clarified. Rodney choked on his tea. Me? Oh, come on. Can you honestly see me pushing a broom around? They give training, yeah, but I've got to GCEs. Dell paced the worn carpet, his mind working furiously. I've been trading all my life. Since I was 12, I could sell rice to the Chinese. I'm going to go back to trading. I'm going to work for a little local firm. Like who? Raquel asked, turning off the tap. It's called Trotter's Independent Traders. Rodney